if you are a people pleaser, you are likely going to feel guilt, you're likely going to feel selfishness, and you might even feel shame about making these tough calls. That doesn't mean that it's wrong though. That means that your identity has to expand and you have to step into a new version of yourself in order to lead this team.
Hannah Hotline, how can I redirect your call? Oh, hello. Hi, I have a really big problem. Dear Hannah Hotline, I don't really like my boss. I'm really attracted to the guy I work with, but
I just want to say no, but I say
it's
yes.
my self-esteem, you know? Maybe it's burnout. This is the operator putting you through now.
Hey hotties, welcome back to another episode of Hannah Hotline. So pumped to be here with you today. And today we are hearing from a listener who has recently been promoted. Their career has accelerated quite quickly. They're about to go into a C-level executive position, but they are also a chronic people pleaser. And this is really, I love this. This is my niche. I love coaching high-performing people pleasers. This is like my 100% specialty here. So as a reminder, if you have an email that you want to send in, you can email hello@hannahkissel.com if you've got a listener question and you want to be featured on Hannah Hotline. All right, so let's go. Hi, Hannah. I've had a pretty rapid rise in my career. Good for you. I only made a career change into tech about 3 years ago, and I'm already a director managing a team of 13. I'm about to be promoted into the C-suite and expand my team to nearly 30 people as part of a major restructure, and I'll be reporting directly into the CEO. That is some rapid rising. Well done. Okay, I'm really excited, but I'm also concerned because I'm a people pleaser. There it is. I really care about the people I work with, and that's always been my strength. The problem is this restructure is going to require a very different version of me. Some people are going to have their roles changed against their will. A senior colleague of mine is going to have to start reporting to me, which means a step down in seniority for her. I'm going to have to deliver a you're either in or you're out message to people I genuinely like and respect. I know it needs to happen, but every time I think about having these conversations, I feel like a fraud and a bully. How do I lead with authority and make the hard calls without abandoning my character? Is it possible to be both compassionate and a decisive, authoritative leader? Torn between nice and necessary. Okay, so absolutely love this one. Here's what's going on here, and this is what I see a lot of the time, especially with leaders who transition into a role, transition quite quickly, and they want to be both liked and they also want to be powerful and they want to be authoritative. And somewhere along the line, those two have been almost conflated, where you think that you can either be one or the other. And there's some extreme polarization here. And I actually just want to squash that because you can both be powerful and likable as a leader. These two things, they're not opposites. In fact, they could coexist together. However, what I really want to kind of dive into is the people-pleasing aspect of it. Because usually, if someone has a lot of people-pleasing tendencies, they have a tendency to avoid really difficult conversations. Now, if you are going through a restructure, if you are potentially, there could be even redundancies happening, you've got movement of very senior people who are now going to report to you. So that is always a difficult transition when you move from peer to leader with one of your colleagues. You know, I've seen this, especially when colleagues interview against each other and one of them becomes the direct manager, or there is a restructure like what's going on with you. So there's a few different things to think about. Now, one, I want you to think about the difference between people pleasing and people caring. So people pleasing, on one hand, is usually the avoidance of hard conversations because you feel uncomfortable. And who is it protecting? It's ultimately protecting you. And I see this in leadership a lot when people don't want to have hard conversations because they don't know how to, or they just feel like they're doing something wrong and therefore they feel like they're wrong. They will have a deep sense of shame, an intrinsic sense of guilt, an intrinsic sense of I shouldn't be doing this because if I do, someone's not going to like me. Now, as a leader, it is your responsibility to change that inside of you. And you have to get a lot more comfortable with discomfort in that area because you can't lead if you're not willing to have these uncomfortable conversations. Now, if you can almost flip that And I did an episode about this a few weeks ago, and I would urge you to listen to it all around nonviolent communication. We're not going to get into the actual communication techniques today, but if you do go into that episode, I will break down how to actually have these conversations. But I remember I was working with a leader, and her direct report was kind of doing something, and then I was like, well, what did you say to them? And she just said, oh, well, I just said, like, is everything okay? And I was like, what the fuck does that mean? Is everything okay? Like, you're not leading at all. You're not asking them or telling them what is actually wrong. And that's no way to lead. And also, you're hindering their career progression. So when we think about people pleasing, what is actually behind it? Is it that you want to be nice? Is it that you want to be caring? Is it that you want to be generous? Or is it that you don't want discomfort? And you need to understand what's going on behind the people-pleasing behavior, because that's how you begin to solve it. Now, if it's that you care for these people, understanding that clarity is the kindest thing that you can do. And also, when you're talking about this reframe of, okay, we're going through a restructure and it looks at like you're either in or you're out, really reframing it to yourself as, I'm giving them the agency here. And if you know that this is what is best for your organization, reframing it in your mind of, we know this is best for the organization, they can either choose to stay here in this role, or they can choose, if they think that something's best fit, like better suited for them, they can also choose to move on. And with that, I would also say that because you're in the C-suite now, looking at what are the benefits that your organization is giving to employees. What programs are they giving them? Let's say if they do take a voluntary redundancy, are they giving opportunities to reskill, retrain? How can you make this as employee friendly as possible, given that now you will have this influence and you can say, if you don't want to move in here, here's the type of package and structure we can offer you. This is obviously, there could be some hindrance here, but based on what you have budget for L&D resources, but just know that you are a leader now, so you can actually make these decisions. Now, with your senior colleague especially, who is going to be reporting to you, and that's going to be a surprising restructure for her, tiptoeing around it isn't going to be helpful to anyone, because essentially you're not really giving her the respect that she deserves, and you're also not giving yourself the respect that you deserve, because you got to this level and she didn't, for whatever reason. Now, I don't know if she wanted to be where you are, but just know that this is a result of how well you are doing in your career and really being able to own that. But you could also ask her, what is going to make this transition as best for you as possible? Here's what I think I would like to do with our relationship during this transition, and actually have a think about the dynamic and how you guys can cope with it, how you guys can help each other through it. And you could also preempt, here's what I see potentially going wrong in our dynamic, here's what I see going right. What do you think? So you can actually have a distinct conversation with a specific colleague and almost ring fence it just around the relationship and around the dynamic and what you guys can do moving forward to be as collaborative as possible. But ultimately, what we're really talking about here is a big identity shift, and how you cope with the identity of being a leader and having more capacity and having more to handle, and knowing that you're going to piss some people off, and that's okay. That's leadership. You're going to have to make some hard calls. So what we really want to do here is increase your tolerance for discomfort. So what does that mean? Do you have rituals? Do you have support systems? Do you have a coach? Do you have a therapist? Do you have people that you can turn to that are going to give you that structure? Because likely, if you are a people pleaser, you are likely going to feel guilt, you're likely going to feel selfishness, and you might even feel shame about making these tough calls. That doesn't mean that it's wrong, though. That means that your identity has to expand and you have to step into a new version of yourself in order to lead this team. Now, what that looks like from a tactical level is sharpening your communication skills. That means going into these conversations knowing what you're going to say, whether that's looking at different leadership frameworks like situational leadership, for example, how you manage each individual based on their capacity or based on their tenure or based on their ability, that is going to shift and change. So you need to be really rock solid in what you're delivering from a skill level, but then there's also the emotional level underneath it of how do I cope and be a bit more authoritative without losing who I am and without caring for people. And some of the most amazing leaders that I know have also been the most heart-centered, heart-led leaders, but that often means making difficult calls. And sometimes if the organization is going in a different direction and someone's skill set doesn't match, that means making that call as well. That unfortunately, this isn't what we're going to be able to do for you, but how do we get you into a role that you're going to feel really good about? How do we give you some organizational support to make the transition as best as possible? Now, I hope that you got a lot of value from this today. I would love to hear from you. Send me a follow-up email as well, or if anyone else got anything out of this. If you, again, want to submit a listener email, you can do that to hello@hannahkissel.com. I'd love to hear from you guys, and I will see you next week.
Hannah Hotline. Email her and you'll be fine. When your brain goes bing, bang, bang, bing, boom. Email Hannah Hotline. Email Hannah Hotline.
Hannah Hotline is sponsored by Dominic Jingles, where quirky, clever and corporate branding is reimagined. DM Dominic on Instagram at Dominic Jingles or email dominicenglish04@gmail.com.